Hello, welcome Cougar fans. It is the editor with BlueCougarFootball.com with some extra commentary for you on the 2011 NFL season report for former BYU Cougars. We'll go through this alphabetically, starting at the top with John Beck. 2011 season was the year that finally the wait was over. After 3 years of waiting his time, 2 different teams sitting on the bench, he finally got another shot to be the starter for an NFL team. But it basically was just a repeat of his rookie year. More than one key player was injured on offense, and Beck failed to produce a win and was yanked after 3 starts. I really sure wish Beck would get a real chance to succeed in the NFL, meaning he gets at least 8 games, half a season as a starter, with a decent supporting cast. Given the reality of the NFL, that probably won't happen. Austin Collie, Indianapolis Colts. Now, he is Exhibit A in my book as to why I want Peyton Manning back on the field in a Colts uniform as soon as possible. Collie had become Manning's go-to guy in the red zone. This year, though, the Colts quarterbacks didn't know how to get Collie the ball, and his production took a drop, especially his touchdown receptions. Now, on a positive note, though, I was happy to see Collie did last the entire season after the concussions he had a year ago. Down in Miami, John Denny, long snapper for the Dolphins, is continuing to have a successful career in that capacity. And the biggest sign that John Denny is doing a good job is that he's stayed with the Dolphins for all these years. Now, why do I say that? Miami has been offensively challenged ever since Dan Marino left, so the punt team has been very active. And he just repeatedly, time after time, has been delivering great long snaps to the punter. Ray Finga, also a member of the Dolphins, is keeping alive the BYU's long tradition of producing top-notch offensive linemen. Now coming out west to Arizona with Max Hall and the Cardinals. Unfortunately, Hall, he's probably done, not just with the Cardinals, but in the NFL. The Cardinals wanted to cut him this year, but he didn't clear waivers after suffering a shoulder injury, so by default he ended up on injured reserve. As I understand it, Hall only had a 2-year contract with the Cardinals. I think it's highly unlikely that anybody picks him up or that the Cardinals re-sign him. But Hall had a good run while it lasted. He can still claim that he beat out a Heisman Trophy winner and won his first career start as a rookie against the then reigning world champion New Orleans Saints, led by none other than Drew Brees. Back out east and up north in Pittsburgh, there's Chris Hoke. I just want to congratulate Hoke on the long, successful career he had, which is particularly impressive since he was not drafted. He never was a star on the field, but Pittsburgh was 19-1 in the 20 games that Hoke started over his 11-year career. Hoke didn't let his backup status stop him from making a mark on the city off the field. He has endeared himself to many city residents in his time there. Now to the heartland, St. Louis, the Rams. Brian Keel. I keep waiting for Keel to have a breakout season. I thought it might be this year, but his numbers actually dropped. Maybe next year will be his year. Let's go back to Pittsburgh for a second here with Brett Kiesel. It was a good year for the Diesel. It's too bad he and the Steelers ran up against Tim Tebow in the playoffs. So if you don't like Tim Tebow and you've been needing a good reason to justify your feelings for him, now you have it. He's responsible for getting the Steelers out of the playoffs and ending another potential Super Bowl run. Kiesel and DeBeard should be back for another season. It'll be interesting to see if maybe the influence of Kiesel and Hoke on that Steelers defensive line can help Hebron Fangupo land a spot in Pittsburgh. Now we jump back to St. Louis and the Rams, where David Nixon, another linebacker, played. I'm not sure how long Nixon will last in the NFL. I guess as long as the Rams make it a point to be the unofficial home for former BYU linebackers, Nixon will have a job. On a serious note, though, he did play his best ball at the end of the season, which could have possibly saved his roster spot for one more year. We'll see how the draft goes. Dennis Pitta, Baltimore. With the Ravens, Pitta has to be the most improved player in the NFL this year. I mean, tell me, who else can claim to have increased their production to the extent that Pitta did? He increased his number of receptions by a factor of 40, which, if my math is right, that's an increase of 4,000%. He increased his receiving yards by a factor of 405, or in other words, 40,500% increase in production. Pitta was the only Cougar to have made any kind of noise in the postseason with his 7 receptions for 70 yards and a touchdown in the AFC Championship game. Brady Papinga, our third linebacker with the St. Louis Rams, continued to make a claim as the best BYU linebacker since Rob Morris. His 51 tackles this year gives him over 300 for his career. Vic Soto, Green Bay Packers, BYU's only rookie this year. BYU had a string of players being drafted in the NFL snapped that went all the way back to 1995 or 1994. But more importantly, Soto kept BYU's string of having players make it on an NFL roster each year alive. Now, Soto was a late bloomer at BYU, but he could give Cougar fans someone to cheer for in the NFL for a while. And finally, we go way out west to the coast in Oakland, where Manasa Tonga played fullback. He was the lone BYU running back in the NFL this year. Just a year ago, BYU had 4 ball carriers in the NFL, but now Tonga's the only one. Hopefully the new management in Oakland will take a liking to Tonga so BYU's running backs don't become an extinct species.